Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 10, Episode 72. I'm Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and I'm doing the opening today. That means my co-host Alex Kozora is not with me. Alex and Daniel Valente are both down in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl week obviously going on this week. They had the measurements, weigh-ins today. Practices got underway today as well. So Alex will be down there the rest of the week and won't be back on the show until Monday. So sitting in for him, first time on the show and probably not going to be his last. A lot of people ask all the time, hey, can you get some of those other guys from Steelers Depot on the site? They're probably tired of hearing me run my mouth all the time. So with that, first time on the show, Tom Mead. Tom has been with Steelers Depot a little bit over a year now. He was even down at last year's Senior Bowl doing stuff for the site and all like that. Has done work for the Scouting Academy in the past, and just by chance I came across him, I think, on the Twitter machine, and just reading some of his work on I think it was the Pylon website there for a while there, and reached out to him. He was open enough to come and start contributing for the site, and I'm glad he did. So with that, Tom, welcome to the Terrible Podcast.
Thank you, Dave. Happy to be here, man.
Glad to have you on. So why don't we start a little bit, give the folks a little bit of background on you, and I'll learn a little bit too. You and I have only talked a couple of times on via phone or Skype over the year. That's how hard of a boss I am. I keep real tough tabs on these guys all the time. But no, in all seriousness, Tom, tell little people about yourself. What got you into the kind of the scouting end of what you're doing now, and maybe what you're doing in real life.
Okay. Well, I'm located in Connecticut. A long way from where you are right now, but I grew up a Steelers fan, and a lot like other people out there, I've always enjoyed the draft. Read as much as I could, and did my own mock drafts just like a lot of people do, and I was looking for a way to get into this, and that's when I found the Scouting Academy, and went through their class sessions, and it really helped me a lot to learn what traits to look for, how to give proper grades, how to write reports. Dan Hatman, who runs the Scouting Academy, does an excellent job and is extremely helpful. So after I completed that, I got the invite to go to the Senior Bowl with the Scouting Academy, which is a surreal experience being down there. You're walking around the hotel and in the stadium, and it's just NFL people everywhere.
Right.
It's crazy. But after that, Dan had asked me to join him with the Inside the Pylon website and do their draft guide. So I did that for 2 years. As well, Dan also asked me to do work for him, so I read students' reports and give notes on it and give it back to Dan, so save some of the work that he has to do. And then I was lucky enough to get the call from you and jump on with the Steelers Depot crew. I think I told you last time I talked to you, a buddy of mine told me years ago that I have to get on this crew and start working with them. And I was like, yeah, that's never going to happen. But luckily I'm here.
I tell you, I don't know. I can't remember the process, how I meet half you guys, but I obviously came across your work, I think, on Twitter or something, and then followed a link and started reading, I think, over at Inside the Pylon and all like that. What do you do in the real world, Tom, if you don't mind me asking?
No, yeah, real world. I work for a healthcare company. I've been there for 23 years.
Okay.
I get to work from home, which is fantastic. Basically what I do is, the easiest way to say it is it's claim data analysis for the people that write payment policies. So it's a lot of number-driven stuff and access databases and Excel spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. But kind of like the way you are with us here, my bosses don't bother me there either. So it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah, my motto has always been, man, just if you got good people, just let them do what they do best, and don't hold their hands. And I mean, you've learned that over the years as well too. We'll get together and powwow a little bit before the season of what kind of weekly features that maybe you'll write and all, and then obviously when you'll handle that throughout the season. And then when we shift into draft mode, you guys get right after writing up these profiles and all. So with that, why don't we talk first a little bit? We're going to talk a lot about. We'll talk. Obviously, all of this is going to be draft related and player profile related today. We'll talk a little bit about some guys that Tom has already profiled on SteelersDepot.com because look, I stay behind these guys most of the off season here because I get such a late start on this. So, I use them a lot of times as sounding boards and reading their reports to try to get caught up on as many players as I can between now and the combine. And usually after the combine comes, I feel a little bit better that I start taking a lot more deeper dives into guys that I think the Steelers are going to be more interested in. But your latest report, Tom, that went up on the site this afternoon is Stanford tight end Colby Parkinson, and 6'7", 251, big kid. I've watched a little bit of tape on him, but with that, I don't want to steal your thunder here. So give me an overall kind of synopsis on what we'll find, or what other people will find on the tape when it comes to Colby Parkinson.
Okay, they use him everywhere. They split him out wide in the slot, in line, and on the wing. He's got great hands. A huge catch radius. If you put it near him, he's going to come down with it. Obviously, at 6'7", he's got the size to go up over people, and he can box out smaller defenders. As a blocker, he improved over the course of this year. He's a work in progress. He's not going to move people, but he does a good job of body positioning and hand positioning to the chest to be able to control guys and just turn them so he can keep the lane open. He's got build-up speed. If you get him out in the open, he can go, but it takes him a little bit to get going. And I think he needs to improve his route running, as most college kids do. And he needs to learn how to explode out of his break so he can create more separation. A lot of his catches are contested catches because he's just not getting away from defenders enough. But the Steelers, they like guys 6'6" and up,
right?
And I read as much as I can, and I haven't heard a lot about Parkinson. And when I watched him, I think he's still improving and has got a chance to be a good one.
Now, obviously, when you think of Stanford and all, you think of obviously David DeCastro come out of that. And, several years ago, they used to run a lot of power and all. Right. They used to have that tight end attached and all like that. I haven't caught up a lot. Once again, I've seen the highlight stuff on him. I think one other game of his. I think maybe Washington or Oregon State. I forget which one that I saw on that. But how much are they using him? As an inline versus splitting them out and. Are they still running a lot of power split zone with him? And how's he holding up, pretty much, as a blocker, more so in line and, H-back kind?
Right. Yes, they are still running the same kind of scheme. I'd say probably in the games I watched, he was maybe 25% in line. They used 3 or 4 tight ends a lot, so they rotated them in and out. He gets up sometimes. Stands up too tall, but again, with a 6'7" guy, you're going to expect that. He works hard. The feet are always moving. He's in good position. He just doesn't have the strength to really move people out of the way. So he can. Like I said, he can wall off guys and keep the hole open. He's going to work. And once the guy goes by him, he'll let go of that guy and go look for somebody else to block. He's good on the second level. He stalk blocking and, mirroring the defender. either linebackers or safeties. He like watching from. I watched one game in 2018 and 4 from this year, and you could see improvements each step of the way. And they started to use him more in line as the season went on as well.
There's not many obviously with spread offenses in college and all like that. I mean, you're getting more of that flex tight end. You're getting further and further away, it seems, every year of kind of the true kind of, the traditional, what we like to think of as the Heath Miller type, and all. But he is one of the few probably in this class that probably has some decent experience in line. The little bit of blocking I saw on him, obviously it looked like he needed some work on it. I don't know where to me, this tight end class isn't great.
I agree.
From top to bottom, and that's even with some of these younger underclassmen declaring as well. I just don't see it as a very deep type. I think that probably when the dust settles, 10 to 12 of them probably get drafted, and then the rest of them, maybe as many about 14, maybe at most, I would think. And then, of course, the rest, priority undrafted free agent type and all like that. The kind of feel that I got on him is a 4th or 5th rounder. Am I not being generous enough there?
No, I think that's what a lot of people have him at right now, and I can see that, but I'm trying to project, and I think he can be better than that. So I think someone might take him a little earlier. That's why I think I put him as a 3rd.
Okay.
But most people, I think, have him right in that early day 3.
What's he going to run? Like a 4.8 maybe?
I'm hoping 4.75. That would put him right about the average of last year. Like I said, it's build-up speed, but once he gets going, he can move. So I think that's going to be one of the telling stats for him when it comes to the combine.
He's probably not going to be a huge triangle guy, Is he, Sparky rating?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, another guy you recently profiled so far this offseason, Alton Robinson out of Syracuse, an edge. And I think we're going to talk about another edge a little bit later on. And I've watched more of that other edge than I have this one. So catch me up quickly on Alton Robinson out of Syracuse.
Okay, so both of those edge guys had really good junior years. They both came out with 10 sacks, so they got, everyone had their eyes on them then, and both of them all their numbers came back this year. The Syracuse team wasn't as good, but so maybe that's got something to do with it. But Robinson's got a good first step. He reads the run versus pass well. He's got an assortment of pass rush moves, and he can win with power or quickness. He takes on blockers. He'll fill the holes and take on the blockers, but he's got to build up some bulk to really be able to set the edge. And running sideline to sideline, when he's going laterally, it seems like he slows down. It looks like he's trying to go fast. He just doesn't move very fast. And he also takes bad angles when chasing from behind. So there were some plays that were behind the line of scrimmage that, we've seen Watt and Dupree make where they, cut the corner and get downfield or get down the line, and he just wasn't making any of those plays. So, again, pass rushers are, I think pass rushers go higher than they might need to go because everyone needs pass rushers. So, I think I had him as a 3rd rounder as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went in the 4th either.
At 6'4", 260, is our team's going to look at him maybe both as an outside linebacker, maybe a base 4-3 in?
I would think so, yeah, because he didn't really get asked to cover, so I don't know what kind of skills he has there. He would definitely fit in a base end in a four-man front as well.
When watching that other Syracuse edge, I know he played on his feet a little bit, standing up. I don't remember him dropping much. I don't suppose Alton Robinson dropped much either. No,
not really at all. They didn't really use them for that. part of the defense.
All right, he might be a guy I get to try to do a sack contextualization. Have you looked at very many of his sacks? Sack reel, anything, any high quality sacks in there?
Yeah, there were definitely some good ones. He's got some. He's got the ability. He can, use power rushes. He's used the bull rush, push-pull, long arm to get the leverage. He also showed quickness with a swim move, club swim move to the inside, which was really effective. And I thought he could use that more, but he didn't really use it that much. But there's definitely some quality stuff in there.
Bit stiff and not very bendy, though, right?
Yeah, definitely. I saw some other people say he had good bend, but I didn't really see it. He just looked stiff up top.
A lot of false steps. Do you see how much what do you see in his footwork off the line?
It was pretty good. The first step was good. He's long-legged, so he can put pressure on the tackle on the outside. It's just getting around the corner. That's why I like the inside move a little bit better, and I think his power stuff is stronger than his speed rushes right now.
All right, another guy. Now, this is an interesting cat right here, and once again, I'm playing with fire here because I've only watched just a little bit on him. Mississippi State interior offensive line and Darrell Williams, and I think this is a guy that's played both center and some guard at Mississippi State. I think he was one of the ones recently he was at the Shrine game, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and they were talking him up pretty good. Yeah, he's got a lot of experience. He played guard for 2 years while Jenkins was there, who got drafted by, I think, Green Bay. And then he moved to center this year. He's got a ton of starting experience. He's very strong in one-on-one blocks. He's got a good anchor versus power rushes. He's got a little bit of a nasty streak in him, which is always good to see. But I thought his hands were a little inconsistent on blocks. And when he gets out to the second level, his hands get too wide, and he ends up the linebackers are able to get to his chest on the second level. But that's something they can fix.
Is he every bit of 6'3", or is that generous, or is he more 6'4"? Does he match up to those measurements? I think he does, definitely in the weight category. But
yeah, I agree. I agree with the weight. He might be. Their measurements are usually a bit inflated, so he'll probably come in closer to 6'2", I would guess. But yeah, you like the versatility he's got there, though.
Yeah, and how was he on the move? Did they pull him a lot there?
Not very good. They did pull him. He's kind of labors to get around the corner. He's not very quick. Lateral agility is adequate. So that I think the Steelers pull with the right guard more than the left guard usually. So it wasn't one of his better traits.
What's his best position between center and guard?
I think center is probably his best.
Okay, so we're probably looking at him if he's 6'3", right at 6'3", a little bit, a little bit comes in a little bit under that. Probably we're talking about, I don't know, what are we talking about, a 5th or 6th round guy, or?
I could see him going, early day 3, I'd say 4 or 5, somewhere in that area.
Okay, I just he had a pretty decent week at the Shrine, and he had a pretty good Shrine game too, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He played well. That's definitely going to help him going forward, and there's, again, like I said, his versatility is going to help him a lot.
All right, Bradley. How do you pronounce it? Ane, yeah. Ane. Utah edge. Measures in 6'3", 265. Probably another one of those. A lot of teams probably gonna look at him as probably a 4-3 pass rushing in. Maybe a little more so than maybe an outside linebacker. What'd you find on Bradley's tape?
Okay. Yeah, he's got a good burst off the line of scrimmage, and his active hands, he's constantly fighting. He's had solid bend around the corner, and if he can get around the corner, he flattens quickly to get to the quarterback. He improved his inside rushes. he wasn't the first couple games I watched. I think it was about 2.5 games. It was all outside speed rushes, and he wasn't doing that much. And then he started to work on the inside stuff, and it really started to open up what he was able to do. Strong run defender, can set the edge and plays from and can pursue from the backside. He has some experience dropping in coverage, but not a lot. He didn't use power rushes, really. It was all speed stuff, which is surprising at 265. And he needs to improve his hands countering when that first move doesn't work. And he has a strange way of tackling when chasing guys downfield. He cuts them like a defensive back does, which was surprising to me. But based on his size, I don't usually do player comparisons because you got to kind of remember everybody you've seen. You might be better at that.
No, I'm awful on it. I end up trying to mold 3 or 4 players into it too much, and I'm bad at doing those kind of comparisons like that.
Yeah, but based on his size, Lamar Woodley kind of came to mind. But.
Okay. All right, Lamar Woodley. Yeah. I think was what was Lamar coming out like 6'2"? 270 something coming out of Michigan, I think. Did he rush? Right, did he rush standing up much?
Yes, he did.
And how much did they drop him?
Not a lot. Occasionally into either the middle zone or the curl flat zone, but not a whole heck of a lot.
Did they ran an even front though, didn't they?
Yes.
Okay. I thought
he's another one that's got the NFL bloodlines, which they love. His father Brad played for the USFL Gamblers, and I think his uncle's the offensive coordinator at Virginia. So he's got some football blood in him.
All right. Was he a captain?
I don't think he was.
I can't remember if I saw if he was a captain. I'm watching.
Oh, yes, he was. Sorry, yes, okay. He was. Yes.
Yeah, I'm seeing him now stand up here against. I think it's USC here. Yeah, interesting guy. That's another guy I might tell you if I can find enough tape on it. Boy, 29.5 sacks during his college career, huh?
Yeah, he led the team for 3 straight years, so it was consistent production for him.
How many of those that you've seen, especially from the ones last year, would been I don't know under 3.5 seconds?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I honestly can't put a number on. Okay. I don't remember exactly, so I don't want to guess.
All right, where do you kind of you think obviously you think he'd be a guy Steelers might be interested in, and what you projected him round 2 kind of early there, huh?
Yep. Again, I think he's got a lot of pass rush moves, but doesn't have. It looks like he decides what he's going to do before the snap happens, no matter what the offensive lineman does. So I think he has to build his pass rush plan, and he doesn't have like a go-to move. He kind of mixes in everything. So I think if someone can get with him and trying to work with him on reading the tackles, I think he'll improve, and I think he can definitely end up being a second rounder.
Boy, he carries his weight well. I mean, he doesn't look he doesn't look 265.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, he might be a guy to take a deep dive if I can find enough Utah tape out there on him, try to contextualize at least maybe his sacks from last year. All right, a guy I know zero about, Virginia cornerback Bryce Hall.
Yeah, so unfortunately he suffered a bad ankle injury, so bad that it was one of those ones that they cover up and don't even show you what's going on the field. So he missed a lot of his senior season, but he's 6'1", 200, he's got good size. Takes good angles to the ball, good hips, and he's patient in man coverage, so he doesn't go for that first move. He waits to react to what the receiver's doing. He uses the sideline well on the deep ball, keeping using his body to push the receiver toward the sideline. He's a willing run defender and will set the edge when needed. But some of the negatives was he's not very explosive. He has build-up speed. So they might some teams might end up seeing him as a safety more than a corner, I think. He wasn't a very physical tackler. He kind of decelerates and dips his head before contact and, loses sight of the runner. Sometimes he would lunge and press man and, not be able to get his hand on the receiver. And he only had 5 career interceptions, which was a little disappointing with 38 pass breakups on his career. So
he looks like a physical player. Looks like he's willing to come forward and stick his face in the fan on some of these wide receiver screens and all. They play him off a lot.
In the games, yeah. In Virginia's defense, they did play him off a lot. They played zone. I thought he was better suited for press because of his size and his patience there, but they didn't play that often. They did a lot of cover 3 where he covered a deep third. So it might be some teams may see him more of a press corner than the off man that he was covering in college.
Yeah, he doesn't look, watching this highlight against UNC, it doesn't look big click and close, real twitchy kind of guy there. He does look like a free safety more than anything. Not obviously not as athletic as say Minka Fitzpatrick and all like that kind of guy. Is it you expect him to get invited to the combine or no?
Yeah, I think he will.
Okay,
as long as he's healthy enough to do the drills and everything.
What's he? You got a 3rd round grade on him as well too, huh?
Yep. I think I think someone's going to end up moving him to safety, but his ball skills and the way and the angles he takes and his IQ, I think someone will pick him up on day 2.
All right, let's see here. Moving right along here. Let's go to Nick Harris, interior offensive lineman and played mostly center, I think, at Washington. Alex and I have had a couple of talks on him. I don't want to bias you. I don't know. You probably already listened to it anyway. But what are your thoughts on Nick Harris?
I think he's one of the quicker offensive linemen I've seen the past couple of years. He's got great mobility. He actually started at 3 positions, 25 starts at center, 15 at right guard, 2 at left guard, so he has experience at all 3 spots. He's got really good timing and execution to the second level. He's got the quickness and footwork to win on reach blocks in the outside zone runs. Has the agility to get out in space and lead. Very quick on the pull from the center position, which is always good to see. And he's got natural leverage with his height, and
right.
Showed a good anchor versus power rushers. He got measured today, and the height came in at 6'1" and a quarter, I think.
Ugh.
But he weighed in at 293, which was really light, and his arms were 32 and 3/8 inches, which is under what they like for the inside. So, I just wish he was bigger, because I think he's really good, but I don't. He's probably better suited for a zone run offense, and without that length there, it's kind of hard to see someone really going really high.
Yeah, we got another AQ Shipley on our hands here, don't we?
That's exactly who I thought of. Yeah.
You just don't see, and I forget it's been a week and a half and I haven't watched a lot of them, but I saw him get kind of pushed back a couple times there, and I just think that size is going to be the ultimate, and those short arms of his are going to be ultimate detriment to him, either at center or guard. I think his best shot is probably center. Sort of like AQ Shipley. I mean, look. I mean, who would have thought that AQ Shipley would still be in the league this long? You know, I know I did.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, we used to joke about him, T-Rex, short little arms with him. But man, let me tell you, that guy stuck with it. And, he's started quite a few games around the NFL, since getting out of Pittsburgh there. I think he's going to get drafted. I think some people are going to grade him a little bit too high.
I have him. I saw a lot of people talking high second rounder. I have him as a third rounder because of that size issue. But there's going to be. I can see like a San Francisco who's likes those quick offensive linemen. Someone like them, falling for this guy and taking him on day 2. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if he falls just based on the size.
I mean, he's a gritty little player. Just sometimes those measurables, man, they just don't. You can win in the pack. Yeah, you can win in the Pac-12 or whatnot, but
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it at every position. You see great college receivers, but they run a 4.6, and they go in the 6th round. So I mean, to us. Or to some people watching, they're going to go, size really doesn't matter that much. But to the NFL, it does. They have their standards, and they pretty much stick to it. But,
yeah, most definitely.
We'll see what. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to, like I said, I haven't taken, most all these guys. I'm at the point right now where I know just enough about a lot of them right now where I'm dangerous, But he's another one that I just I could tell right. I didn't even what I try not to do. I try not to look at a lot of these kids' measurements before I turn on the tape on them. I'll see somebody talking to someone on Twitter, and then to try to avoid, and obviously you can't do that all the time. But I'll jump right into YouTube and try to get a first initial kind of feel unbiased from anything on that. And my first impression was him, man, he's small and he's got short arms, and that obviously ended up being the case. All right, another guy that you've already profiled down I think in Mobile this week, and probably going to end up being one of the top tight ends in this year's class. I've pulled a lot of tape on him. I've only watched a little bit. I think I found every Purdue game from last year. I just got to get around to get through 3 or 4 of these games, but I have watched enough to know that this guy is a good receiver. But past that, I don't know too much about him. We'll talk about Bryson Hopkins, the tight end out of Purdue. He looks every bit of the part at 6'5", 245.
Yeah, absolutely. And another guy with football bloodlines is Brad Hopkins. Was his father, played at Illinois and then with Houston and Tennessee for 13 years. So he's got that going for him. Very athletic tight end. You can use him throughout the full route tree. He can beat you on any level. Very natural hands. Runs well with the ball. Has the speed to take the distance if he gets a chance. He's a solid blocker in space, one-on-one, but lacks the physicality to handle the inline stuff. He's more of that second tight end, the H tight end. He didn't break a lot of tackles after the catch, and lacks the play strength as an inline blocker, and struggled a little bit with physical defenders. They could push him off his route, but his receiving ability, that fast pass catching tight end everybody's looking for. They're going to be looking at this kid.
I see him chip off the line a little bit, that kind of stuff in pass pro kind of stuff. I have not seen a lot of him. I mean, they just didn't seem like they used him a lot as an inline blocker. At least it's not this past season.
No, very very little. He was more often split out in the slot or even outside. But yeah, they used him very little inline.
So
they had a couple other tight ends for that.
That's obviously, look, I mean, we don't know how much longer because of the supply and demand. We don't know how much longer Steelers are going to be able to stay in this, try to find the best well-rounded. We saw a couple years ago they even went out and got a Ladarius Green, who really more of a receiver than he had the effort as a blocker, but he just far from polished. In fact, this Hopkins kid kind of the build, I guess, and the route running ability kind of reminds me a little bit of of a little Ladarius Green there, but just not a lot of blocking on this kid. You'd have to think that's going to be a process for him, for a team that wants to bring him in and try to make him, an 11 personnel tight end, to run a lot of power, a lot of inside zone.
Yeah, I agree. And with a father who was an offensive lineman for 13 years in the NFL, you'd hope, some of that, he caught some of that, but they just don't, maybe, I don't know if they never asked him to do it or he was just not good enough in practice, but it's definitely something he's going to have to learn to do and do at the next level.
And I suppose that's something they're going to ask him to do quite a bit here. I mean, at least I would at the Senior Bowl, right? I mean, when Alex,
yeah.
I mean, that usually they try to work on things that these kids haven't, or at least see some of the things that these kids haven't done a lot of. So I suppose we'll get a full update from Alex Kozora and Daniel Valenti when it comes to how they fared in blocking.
Absolutely, they'll ask him to do everything down there, and if they find a weakness, they're going to try and see what you can do with that weakness, and if there's room to make it better. So it's definitely going to help him being down there working with NFL staffs.
All right, of all these guys, I think that's all of them that you profiled so far, right? On the site?
Yes.
And I think you got a couple more in the hopper, so we'll tease those. And I mean, you'll be writing these things all throughout throughout the offseason here. Of the guys that we just reviewed, which guy's your favorite?
It's actually Parkinson, the big tight end from Stanford.
Okay.
I think he's got a lot of upside. Like I said, his blocking improved. His catch radius is crazy. If you get him with the right coach and teach him how to separate a little bit more, teach him how to block a little bit better, I think he can be, a starter in this league.
Oh, hey, I don't know what happened here, but it's a great opportunity for me to tell you about Goody's Original Popcorn. Hey, this is Dave Bryant from SteelersDepot.com. You've heard me talk about Goody's Original Popcorn on this podcast for the last several weeks, and let me tell you, if you have yet to try it, you're missing out. A business right here in Las Vegas, Dave pops his own popcorn here, ships it out all over the country and really overseas too. Great flavors, extra butter, cheese, spicy buffalo, jalapeno cheddar, white cheddar, salt and vinegar, dill pickle, loaded baked potato, pizza, chili lime, kettle corn, churro, Fruit Loops, caramel, sour nerds, cheese and caramel mixes. He's got it all at Goody's Original Popcorn. My three favorites, you've heard me talk about them on the podcast quite a bit. Spicy buffalo, the caramel, and the Fruity Loops. Man, that Fruity Loops taste imagine having popcorn that tastes just like Fruit Loops. It's not overbearing. It's not too much. It's just right. It makes great for an after meal snack or even a late night snack. Heck, I eat it all day long. But boy, that spicy buffalo, you better have a glass of tea with you when you're eating it there, because that stuff will light you up. If you're into that kind of stuff like I am, you will certainly love that spicy buffalo from Goody's Original Popcorn. You can get Goody's Original Popcorn online at goodieslv.com. That's GOODYSLV.com. Once again, Dave is a fine guy, does business here in Las Vegas. That's how I came across him. Been a customer for well over a year, I think, there. So, once again, gluten-free, non-GMO seeds, 100% coconut oil, non-trans fat cheese. You get it all from Dave at Goody's Original Popcorn. And look, he's having a promotion up until the Super Bowl, okay? So, if you order and you order online at goodieslv.com, use promotional code HELMET, you'll be in a running for a full-size helmet, a Steelers helmet. How great is that? He's already given one away. He wants to give another one away to one of our listeners here. So get in line now. Get your ticket in the box, if you will. So by going to goodieslv.com and placing your order and using promo code HELMET. You'll be glad you did. And thanks again today for being a sponsor on the Terrible Podcast. All right, let's move to some guys that you highlighted for us to talk about. I don't know how many we're going to get to. We'll get to as many as we can here from the East-West Shrine game this past week in the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. First one, there's two tight ends I want to talk about today, and the first one is one I know less about. and that's Eli Wolf. They used him more as the pass catcher, I guess, at Georgia. Obviously, he was on the field, I think, in a lot of blocking situations as well too. I watched the East-West Shrine game. I looked at a couple of his cut-ups real quick. Tell me more about Eli Wolf.
Okay, so he started at Tennessee, and from what they said during the game, he transferred to Georgia because he wanted to be more a bigger part of the passing game. At Tennessee, he only had 8 receptions in 2 years, and he transferred to Georgia and ended up getting 13. So I guess he improved a little bit there. But he's tall, 6'4", but he was listed at 236 pounds, which is a little light. I only have a couple notes from the game. He looked good as a receiver. They used him a lot on that first drive. I think he had 3 catches for 49 yards. Again, both of these Georgia tight ends, we don't know a lot about, and I think you put it out on Twitter trying to find out what the reason was, right?
Yeah, and I guess it's a good segue. And obviously, you haven't broken down a large portion of his film yet, too. Maybe he's all these guys that we're about to talk to, we just probably both scratch the surface on. Being as the All-Star games were this past weekend and all, but I got more curious about the other tight end there, Charlie Warner. I think his dad even played at Georgia there. The thing that gets me is, and they even mentioned this during the broadcast the other day, the kid looks like he's got soft hands. The kid looks like he can get open in space. Now this is just on just a few plays there, obviously. He played in the NFLPA Bowl. Which one was he in? Was he in the Shrine game?
Warner was in the PA Bowl.
Okay, that's right. Warner was in the NFLPA Bowl. And they made the comment too. This is a guy that can actually catch the football, And obviously, what did he have at Georgia's entire career?
34 catches for 376 yards.
Yeah, and I think one touchdown or one?
Yep.
Yeah.
One.
And I watched that. And it was kind of a post. Who was it against? Auburn, I think. I can't remember specifically there. But you look at his. You watch him as a blocker, and he looks. Look, he's no George Kittle. All right,
mm-hmm.
But of the tight ends that I've kind of focused on as far as the blocking goes, and I haven't watched a lot of your kid Parkinson yet out of Stanford yet, so I definitely want to dive into that aspect of his game. Warmer looks like looks like he has those traits, and the problem is now, okay, we probably got enough tape to look at this kid as a blocker. And especially lined up in the line of scrimmage, H-back, I think occasionally maybe they put him in the backfield as a fullback. Not very often. That's not what he does. He's more of an end of the line of scrimmage guy. And they would occasionally split him out wide as well too in that Georgia offense. He just didn't throw to him any, And it's hard to speculate and hard to project a guy that's use that way. Now, what is kind of I don't know how much you looked at Warmer ahead of us talking about him, but what's kind of your initial thoughts on him?
I didn't get to look at him a lot, but I'm kind of on the same page as you. We've seen him as a blocker. He's got good size. He's 6'5".
He looks every bit of the part.
Absolutely, yeah. He looks like it. He looks like a tight end, an NFL tight end. And I looked at the numbers for Georgia's offense, and they only had 23 completions all year to tight ends. So they just don't use tight ends in their offense. So we're gonna have to look at these guys and see. Both of them look like they were comfortable catching the ball in the 2 games. So they might be little diamonds in there that we can find later in the later rounds.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I want to, he's another guy. I mean, look, he's not going to get drafted, even in this tight end class. I don't think he's going to go early. But is he potentially a guy? Could a good combine? I mean, I don't got a clue. What I imagine Wolf's going to be going to put up the better 40 time, right?
Yeah, he looked a little more athletic, yeah.
And Wolf, I don't think the Steelers are going to have much interest in Wolf. He just looks, too much of a flex. It just looks like a big wide receiver to me more than anything, right?
Yeah, I could actually see him end up being the fullback, but yeah, well, I guess we'll have to see how his pro day goes.
Yeah, but Charlie, I'm interested to see. I hope Charlie gets a combine invite. I mean, with him playing, he's in that questionable category when because they only invite, what is it, 300 or something?
I think so. Yeah.
To the combine there. I hope they invite him because I would like to see. He's a great kid too. I think captain for a couple games. Just a great backstory on this kid altogether. Didn't complain the entire time he was there. Wanted to go to Georgia obviously because of the family roots there. I'm not saying there's anything to this guy, but he just a little bit I saw in the NFLPA Bowl made me want to find out more about him. And as far as his blocking tape goes, yeah, it looked fine to me. I mean, once again, we're not talking about a George Kittle here, but I think some of the better stuff I've seen so far out of tight ends in this class.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really get into his blocking, but that's definitely something that the Steelers are gonna need. They need someone that's going to be that Y tight end that's going to play in line. So it may not be one of these. The guys you find higher in the draft, it might be one of these late round guys, and they may have to piece it together with a couple of different players. But yeah, I'm with you. I hope he gets an invite. And like you said, this tight end class isn't that deep, so he might get a shot there.
Yeah, and they usually, I don't know what they have, about 15, 18 of those tight ends at the combine. I mean, I think it'll say a lot about. Because obviously a lot of input goes into those combine invites from scouts and all. Those are guys that they want to see. I mean, obviously this guy's got crystal clean character, played at obviously a Power 5 and SEC school at that. I'm going to consider him a snub if they don't invite him. He's a guy that I definitely think. We'll be profiling him on the site, one of us at some point there. But he was a guy that definitely I want to talk about today. Kyle Murphy, the offensive guard out of Rhode Island. I guess they're calling him a guard. He wore a lot of hats there at Rhode Island, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He 43 games, 36 starts. He was a team captain. He started 9 games at left guard, 5 at right tackle, 21 at left tackle, and 1 at center. So he's got, you love having that experience at all those spots.
What's he measuring at 6'3", what?
The Rhode Island site had him at 6'4", 312.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a decent size. The highlight tapes I saw of him, he had a good anchor. Showed a nasty nature. He likes to bury guys into the ground, and he doesn't turn 22 until May, so he's fairly young as well. Yeah.
And he's obviously not an underclassman, right?
No, he's a senior, yeah.
And he's that young? Boy, that's a guy we probably need to circle there. Obviously not a first year. He's going to have to play guard, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I only saw a little bit of it, but I think he's best suited to be inside. But it's good to have that experience to fill in if you need him to somewhere.
What'd you see? Where they have him? I forgot to look where they played him in the Shrine Bowl.
Left guard.
And what'd you think?
He looked good. He plays with good balance, good pad level. He didn't look to be overwhelmed by anybody moving. Going from the playing FBS guys. So. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Have you watched any of his Rhode Island tape at guard? Did they pull him much? Have you seen any of that or not?
I haven't seen any at guard yet. All I saw was at left tackle. And I didn't see them pull him from there.
I think I read something where he only allowed like 2 sacks or something at left tackle Rhode Island, but that doesn't, that doesn't really equate to I gave up 0 sacks last year at Rhode Island. All right, Jamarcus Bradley is another guy on your list out of Louisiana Lafayette. There's only I think one game of his up on YouTube. I think against Appalachian State, and it didn't look like he's thrown much to him there. And so a quick rundown on kind of some stats and stories on him there. I think the most encouraging thing is that his production increased over the years that he was there. It looked like they moved him around quite a bit, but probably I don't know, where's he projected at? More as a slot or what?
Probably.
Or an X.
I think he'd probably be. I'd guess a slot. I think that would be his best position. He's a 6'1", 195. He had 160 catches in college with just under 2,400 yards and 23 touchdowns. He had 10 touchdowns in each of the last 2 years. So you like that red zone production there. In the Shrine game, he had 2 catches for 27 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown was on a little slant inside the red zone. The ball was thrown a little behind him. He adjusted nicely on that. And then he had another short pass that he was able to create after the catch, which was good to see. There was a couple guys from Louisiana that showed up in these games that might deserve another look, but it's going to be tough to find some tape on these guys.
I think you're right, John. I think that number 80 something, one of those other wide receivers, I thought stuck out a little bit more. I thought, but I obviously there's only the one game of the Appalachian State out there, and obviously with him being kind of a smaller school kid, but definitely somebody probably one of us will get to. Do you think he's going to get a combine invite?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. The other, we talked about one Syracuse edge earlier in the show. Now we'll talk a little bit more about Kendall Coleman, a guy that as soon as I saw him play in that East-West Shrine game, I put a note to myself on Twitter to make sure I get to checking him out a little bit more. I did this afternoon with him. What's the best way? He has a nice little quick burst to him, either off the ball or in chase. I think one of the things that stuck out most to me was his ability to slash down inside, gets a run, get inside either the tackle or the guard, or his ability that if the play gets to the outside, him running after the catch or running after the ball carrier, and he's got a nice little burst, and I like the hustle. Even when the play got past him there, as a pass rusher, not bad. Not overly bendy, obviously, and he played on his feet some. I think he was primarily used on the right side, if I'm not mistaken. I think he'd rush from a three-point stance and occasionally rush from standing up. I didn't, in a little bit of tape I saw, I didn't see him drop much, but he just looks. I mean, he looks that tweener part, that tweener type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's got a nice dip move too to get under the tackles on the outside. Love his motor. It runs hot. At Syracuse, he had 26.5 tackles for loss and 15.5 sacks. Like I said, as a junior, he had 10 sacks, and then this year dropped off to 4. So. Could be a product of the team not being as good or something else, but he definitely deserves a deeper look.
Right. I didn't see much in the way of pass rush arsenal. Of course, I'm only trying to fly through a couple of sacks more than anything. His tackles for loss, really a highlight cut up more than anything on them, but he definitely looks the part. And look, we see all these kind of these middle of the road tweeners, if you will. With his height and weight and all, those guys usually get filtered back into 5th, 6th round, sometimes undrafted. I don't have a good enough feel to. I don't think he's a first 4-round guy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. He was a 4-year starter at Syracuse, and so he's got a lot of experience. He was a defensive team captain, but I don't know if he has enough to get him any higher than mid-day 3.
Let's jump over to one of the kids that played in the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, and a guy that there was a lot of buzz about up until this past season. Tight end Cheyenne O'Grady out of Arkansas. Man, if that kid would have, and I don't know what the latest is on him other than him, just showing up, getting invite, showing up at the Collegiate Bowl. I still don't know all the specifics that went on at Arkansas that resulted in him, parting ways with the school, if you will, there. But man, when he was on the field, look, this was a guy I think many maybe projected to be at the top of the tight end class this year.
I think so, yeah. I think before the year started, he was definitely probably a day two guy, but we haven't heard a whole lot. All year, you didn't really hear much about this guy.
Do you know much of the backstory? I mean, are we still searching for what happened?
Yeah, I couldn't, I didn't see anything in the little research I did, but he was ranked in the top 5 tight end list coming out of high school. So he was a big recruit for Arkansas to get. And, they're just, you look at his numbers and they're just pedestrian. They're really, you hope for a big jump from junior to senior year, and they're just about the same. So I'm not sure what the story is there.
Yeah, I mean, look, his last year he was making all kind of catches. I recognize. Look, for me to recognize a guy from a year out, named from Twitter, being as only pay attention to the draft, at draft time. I mean, I remember seeing and going back already and looking at some of his past cut-ups. I mean, this guy looks like he could, and obviously his blocking wasn't bad from what I remember as well too. I mean, he's obviously not going to be probably a top 5 guy for whatever reason. I guess there may be some character concerns now involved with him, but you just get a feeling that maybe this is a kind of kid that's going to slip into the 5th round or something that somebody's going to get a steal with.
I think I'm right there with you. I think so as well. He's got good size. He's 12 touchdowns in 87 catches, so he does well in the red zone. Someone's going to give him a chance and might be able to find, if they can get him on track, they might get a steal.
If he goes to the combine, boy, that interview process is going to be a major thing with him. Yeah, I think he's got the tools or whatnot to get drafted. I don't think it's going to be obviously not as high as what people were talking back, after last season and all. But I mean, definitely an interesting prospect in a tight end class that, kind of meh overall, I guess, would be the best way to describe it. What of these other guys do you want to talk about?
One guy that caught my eye, I mentioned his name to you the other day, was Kyle Hinton. He is a guard from Washburn. Now, I don't know if we're going to be able to find tape.
Who was the most recent one? Wasn't there one that come out of Washburn not long ago?
Last year, Corey Ballantyne, defensive back, went to the Giants. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But I focused on this kid for maybe 12, 15 plays, and he looked solid. There was a couple times he got beat. Once when he jump set and the guy swam over him, and once he got pulled out of the way. But the rest of the time, he looked solid for a small school guy. Like I said, one of the other guards, very balanced, just calm back there, wasn't overwhelmed by who he was going against. He was also a member of the track and field team and has a record for the weight throw, so he's got strength. 34 games. Started 34 out of 40 games on the offensive line. He even had a reception last year for 8 yards. Definitely, I mean, I don't know if we're going to be able to find tape on him, but I hope he gets in a combine invite as well.
Deontay Holden, an edge out of NC State. Tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, this guy's a bit of a mystery. So let me get to all right, here we go. Yeah, NC State, 6'4", 250. He had 2 sacks in the NFLPA game, so that caught my attention. But you look at his stats at North Carolina State, and there's nothing there. There's 34 total tackles, 11 for a loss, and 4 sacks over his 4 years. But he graduated in 2017. He spent the spring of last year studying abroad in Paris. He only played before his junior year. He only had 29 snaps. So I'm not sure why he wasn't playing. He sounds like he's got a lot of other interests, but with 2 sacks, I thought it was interesting enough just by that to put him on a list to maybe take another look.
All right, tell me about the couple of running backs you have on this list. That one played in the East-West Shrine game. James Robinson out of Illinois State, he had a good game. And who was the other one that you want to talk about? Was it? I think you got 3 of them on here. Scotty Phillips out of Ole Miss and Siwu Olanuwu out of TCU. I know I butchered that name.
Yeah. So all right. So James Robinson's FBS All-American running back. He had the huge game. I think he had 136 total yards and a touchdown. 5'9", 219. He's not a burner. He's a balanced runner. He's got good vision. That he showed he can catch the ball. In 4 years, he had over 4,400 yards and 44 touchdowns. He doesn't have that speed, but he might be a late-round guy that could be a backup for a team. And he showed out well against the competition, so there's something to look at there.
All right, what else? What else you got on the other ones?
Let me find who I got here.
Because I know nothing about these. I don't know nothing about some of these kids here. I haven't even looked at them.
All right, so there was another one I put on here. Another kid from Louisiana, Raymond Calais, and he was the kid who ran back the kick for 100 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Speed. Kid's got crazy speed. As a runner, he had 1,800 yards and 15 touchdowns over his career. As a returner, he had 99 returns for just under 2,500 yards and 2 touchdowns. So probably not a draftable guy, but maybe someone to look at who, to fix that return game that's been such a struggle.
5'9", 185. What's he gonna? I don't know if he's gonna get a combine invite, but what's he gonna run?
He looked high 4.3s. He looked fast. So, the team's gonna have to do some research on that one. But just because the 100-yard kickoff and how fast he looked, I wrote his name down.
25.9 per kick return attempt average as a kick returner. His return averages ranked him 14th in FBS. Finished the year in 2018 with 908 return yards on 35 attempts, season high. And how many times would they use him much in the backfield at all last season? Let's see.
That's the 119 carries last year for 900 yards.
I wonder what them 15 touchdowns of his look like. I wonder how long. How long most of those were.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find some Louisiana tape because, maybe I don't know. He averaged 7.6 yards last year, 9.3 the year before, running the ball. It looks more of maybe a sub-package gadget guy with only 200 carries over the last 2 years. So.
And they didn't throw to him much. They threw to him 10 times last year, but only 7 other times previously there. So it didn't look like they used him or thought much of him as a wide receiver there, or as a pass catcher out of backfield, I should say.
Right. Yeah. So the struggles with the kicking game, and
right.
So seeing a guy take one back with that speed, I was like, all right, let's write down his name.
Man, they played Mississippi State. You would think we'd be able to find Mississippi State versus the Raging Cajuns, or who else did they play? They played Miami. Probably Miami of Ohio. That probably tough. That might be tough to find. He had eight rushes for 80 yards and 3. Looks like one of his best games was that game against Mississippi State. I'd really like to see that tape against Mississippi State. We ought to try to see if we can find that. So.
All right. Yeah.
What about the punter?
The punter. All right. So Jordan Berry started off great last year and then kind of tailed off. So I think they already brought one guy in to compete with him. This kid's out of Bucknell, 2-time FBS All-American. Was a captain for 2 years. He's a Pennsylvania kid. He owns school records for he graduated ranking 5th in career punting average and 7th in the single season punting average, which was 47.3. He was a 3-sport athlete in high school. He was a FCS punter of the year. He's from Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and it looked like he had a decent leg. And being Steelers like to bring in the free agents from the local places, so
right.
I thought maybe that might be someone who they'd take a look at.
All right, well, we'll keep his name pulled to the side, and see if you end up being right on that one. It would make sense most definitely to bring in. Look, they need to have a lot of competition at behind Barry this year for sure. And I think the one kid they've already brought in was like a kicker. They like to bring in some of those kicker punters sometimes,
Right, save a roster spot.
Right there, but. Look, I mean, some of these guys that are on future deals right now, right after the draft, will be gone. So it'll be interesting to see how much they shuffle that. All right, overall feeling, and I know it's early. I know it's early, but and I won't hold it. I tell people I won't hold them to it unless they're wrong. What's the deepest position in this year's draft?
Let's see. Let me think about that one. Deepest position. I think wide receiver is going to be really deep. You're going to be able to get guys in mid-day 3 that are going to be contributors. I think defensive line, interior defensive line has some good guys. It might be top-heavy, but there's definitely a lot of good guys there.
We can forget about that Javon kid out of South Carolina, can't we?
Oh yeah. He's already mid-first round by now.
Javon Kinlaw, boy, I went and looked at his cut-ups yesterday. that guy's good. That guy should go first round, and if he doesn't go first round, he'll be off the board soon in the second round. But man, what an impressive player he is.
Yeah, no doubt. He's showing out. I saw quite a few videos on Twitter today from people down there of him, abusing offensive linemen. So his stock is rocketing up right now.
All right, what have you seen much of the cornerback class?
No, I've been trying to focus on the positions of need so far, so I haven't really dug into the cornerbacks yet. But there seems to be some depth. But you'd have to look into, what kind of schemes these guys would fit in to really understand where they could go.
All right, what's your favorite position to profile?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I love spending time on the tight ends and the edge rushers, because obviously with the TV tape it makes it a little bit easier with those guys, tight ends with blocking and obviously edge rushers off the edge as well too, and but overall those are my two favorite to break down. What's yours?
Yeah, I think the two I like, one on each side of the ball, are tight end and off the ball linebacker, because both of those positions you need to focus on the run game and the passing game for both of those guys, more so than some other positions. So you really need to see what they can do on so many different levels, and to find those unicorns that can do it all are so rare. So it's fun to try and find someone that can play the pass and the run, and on the offensive side, block in the run, and be an effective receiver. So I think those are my two favorites.
Any of who's you got a couple of favorite off the ball linebackers in this class to start with?
Again, I haven't really dug into them because of the need. We haven't, it's not one of the Steelers' highest needs right now. Right. So. But it's definitely something I'll get into at one point.
All right. Maybe next time we have you on, later on in the draft season around combine time or something, get an update on that. All right, Tom, I certainly do appreciate you being on and sitting in for Alex today. How can people follow you on Twitter?
Twitter, I'm at THMead, and make sure you're checking out the Steelers Depot stuff. We'll have a lot more going up on there. keeping us busy right up through the draft.
Absolutely. And Tom, once again, I appreciate you sitting in. Hopefully our listeners will reach out and tell Tom how critique Tom. Tell him how he did on the podcast today. This obviously we're recording this Tuesday night to fit into Tom's work schedule. And I'm looking up now, and it looks like with the North scene, there's Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert on my TV screen right there from Mobile, Alabama. There, Alex already tweeted out. Alex and Daniel both tweeted out some pictures of that earlier in the day there. But Tom, once again, I appreciate having you on. And people, make sure you follow Tom on the Twitter machine or read his work on SteelersDepot.com. And it's probably not the last time you're going to hear him on a terrible podcast. So with that, Tom, I appreciate having you on. So as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Tom on Twitter at TH Mead. You can follow my co-host Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Obviously, if you'd like to donate to the site, please go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, got a ad-free subscription to SteelersDepot.com for $25 for 1 calendar year. Go to SteelersDepot.com and hit that ad-free button to get that. So, not sure what the schedule will be like for Friday's Terrible Podcast. See if I can't whip something up for that. If not, Alex will be back with me on Monday. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex, and today, Tom Mead.